Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin from the Modern Observer Group. And with me, as always, is Chip Januszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how are you doing this week?
Happy autumn. I'm doing great. How about you, Eric?
Doing fantastic. Yes, this is our first podcast of the autumn. Things are going well. We hope all of our listeners are doing well. And we have a special guest today, Hans Parge. Now, Hans, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you and I have talked a little bit about health and learning about the science behind staying healthy, but why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners and tell them a little bit about what you do?
Okay, so my background is biomedical research and pharmaceutical drug discovery. I moved into the world of pharma in the mid-90s and had a wonderful time at a company that was using the technology I trained in to help the drug discovery effort, and they became famous with the launch of the fourth antiviral drug against HIV/AIDS that turned that death sentence into chronic disease. And then in 2000, they were acquired by Pfizer, and from 2000 to 2009, I worked with Pfizer using, again, structure-based drug design. It was an awesome journey. And in 2009, I left and went into the world of wellness and prevention. I've been there ever since. I think most people call it anti-aging, but really it's just wellness and prevention. So that's my passion, is to educate people on what they can do to die young as late in life as possible.
I love that phrase. Yes, when is it too late to die young? It's
Exactly. It's never too late to have another dream, I guess, is what we are told.
Now, of course, when we say die young as as late as you can, we're talking about staying active, staying healthy, and really keeping a youthful vitality into the later years.
I agree, and I think that requires a paradigm shift from what we are usually associated with aging, which is frailty and slow passing into the grave, into one where we actually have fun, and then die very quickly. So, or technically, it's called the compression of morbidity. So you don't spend that long time dying, although I think we have a lot that we can do there, and a lot that we can learn about doing that.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with obviously what you probably talk about all the time is that being young is just a state of mind. I mean, here I am, and I'm a grandfather now, but I still feel like a kid in so many ways. And obviously, what you got going on as far as your own state of mind and positivity and that kind of thing, it just means so much, because everything else is going to fall into place a whole lot better. It's going to be a lot easier to eat right, keep fit, and sleep well if you're feeling good about yourself.
I totally agree. It's there's that joke, I'm not 60, I'm 18 with 42 years of experience.
Exactly. So, in your work, I mean, you mentioned it's going to take a paradigm shift to get people to accept this. What are some of those items that we need to shift?
I think the old paradigm is, I can do nothing. I can just blame my parents and the genes that they gave me. I am condemned to live their pain until I die. That's slowly being replaced with the understanding that, you can do something about how you use your genes. It's called the field of epigenetics, or the nurture part of the nature-nurture equation. And therein, I think, for me at my advanced age, lies the excitement about, doing exactly that, dying young as late in life as possible. The other thing that I think we need to embrace is the responsibility for our health. Embrace a sort of a take a consciousness-based approach to our health. Because really, we all know that if we eat right and we keep fit and sleep well, we will very likely live long and die quick. The problem is that we all feel fine until we don't. So we need some kind of objective measure that allows us to understand where on that continuum of fine we are, because we will all be fine right up to the time that they crack open our chest and rescue root our heart with a triple or quadruple bypass, which just happened to a few friends of mine recently. That is the problem.
Yeah, and it's also being aware of what's going on. I had a situation, this is going back a number of years, with my father-in-law, where he went into a doctor's appointment because he was having some cognitive issues. And they did a full workup on him. And they said, well, you're going to the hospital, you need bypass surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, I'd like to get a second opinion. And the doctor said, no, you don't understand. The ambulance is on the way. If you don't get this in the next, few days, it's going to be too late. And he was completely oblivious about that part of his health.
Therein lies the challenge, Eric, to have something that allows us to measure holistically, how well we're doing. I have another story of a friend who came back from a vacation in Italy on the beach having a wonderful time, and in Heathrow, he had a heart attack. And the next day after they did the bypass surgery, his children were in the room with him, and the cardiac surgeon came and turned to the children and says, let that be a lesson to you, because that event did not happen yesterday. It happened for the whole period of your dad's life. But here's the problem. Another problem is my health, Eric, is none of your business until I get sick. And then please, Eric, can you be the good Samaritan and give it back to me, and preferably do it for free?
That's true. People are very hesitant to talk about health. They don't want to reveal anything. But by the same token, they're also not necessarily aware of it themselves. I mean, now we're starting to see a whole new group of devices come out. Some as simple as, Fitbit and Apple Watch that can actually tell you, oh, you're having a problem with your heart. You need to take care of this. So, with the help of these devices, hopefully people will be more aware of all of the different things that are going into health and be able to take advantage of that knowledge to actually, prevent these things from happen, rather than waiting for them to happen and then, we have to fix the damage.
Yes, and I totally agree, Eric. And I would say that we really need more true prevention devices, which is the one that we can talk about if we want, this biophotonic scanner. True prevention, rather than what our medical industry is looking at early detection. Because nobody, including myself, wants to go in for a test where we want to know whether something is wrong with us. I don't mind going in for a test that tells me how healthy I am, but not the other way around. And that's where we really rely on a very important human trait, which is called denial. Which is not just a river in Egypt, but it is a very, very important form of coping. Because there are certain things I don't want to know about.
So, okay. So you mentioned the biophotonic scanner. Tell our listeners what that is.
It's a very simple and elegant device based on Nobel Prize-winning science that measures a group of plant molecules in your skin that get there through a diet rich in fruit and vegetables. And these are called carotenoids. Some of these carotenoids we need in our eye, otherwise we would not be able to see very well. But basically, and at a very high level, it just measures your nutrition. Your actually the National Academy of Sciences has declared that serum carotenoids are the best objective measure of a person's vegetable and fruit consumption. And we know that only 1 out of 10 in America get their required, 12 or 9 to 13 servings of vegetable and fruits per day.
Right. Very few of us actually get the amount of fruits and vegetables we're supposed to have. So this measures how much you're actually getting. So if you need more, if you're meeting your goals.
Exactly. And it is, some people call it an ultimate nutritional lie detector. But like all of us, we do need to know where we are before we can devise a plan to get to where we want to be. And the score on the device is color coded from red, goes red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and you need to be in the green or the blue. And it always, in my experience for the last 10 years, will trigger an emotional response. And that emotional response is what's important to trigger behavioral change.
Yeah, that makes sense. People respond to emotion much quicker than they'll respond to a fact or to logic. And it's great that we can now measure this objectively because I worked in the pharmaceutical industry for quite a while, and one of the things I learned about studies is any study that relies on a diary, you can't really rely on those results because people tend to put down the information they think the researcher wants to hear rather than what they're actually eating or what they're actually doing to keep themselves healthy.
I like it because it is what we do. We over-report the good and under-report the bad. Mm-hmm. And what's actually even more important, Eric, is you're not going to get your children that are age 3, 4, 5, or less than 10 going to conduct a food diary, and it's there where it's very important to know how if they're really truly nourished or whether they're just feeding their cravings. Because really, we as we said the beginning, we need to nourish both mind, body, and spirit. And it is truly amazing what the human body and its immune system can do, when it's nourished and when we're providing the raw material it needs to function. And that, I think, for me, is the most important biomarker. And you mentioned the pharmaceutical industry. We go for certain biomarkers. What I love about this biomarker is that it's a sort of a holistic readout of what Gellerman and Main call an integrated health biomarker, because it's not just your fruit and vegetable consumption that will determine the score, but also what stress you have in your life. Are you smoking? Are you around lots of pollution? How much extra adipose tissue are you carrying? And actually, even if your supplements are actually working. So it's a sort of a multi-level readout on things that we all can control.
And that's so important. I mean, a lot of people, even if you have a great diet, they're unaware of the fact that if you're under a lot of stress, you actually need more nutrients because the stress destroys cells, nutrients, etc. Smoking, obviously, we've known for years that it causes cancer, destroys cells. So there's all sorts of other factors that come in that this sensor can actually detect.
Absolutely. I am as excited about this device as I was 10 years ago. Actually, 10 years and September 22nd, 2011, I got my own measurement first. And that measurement really changed the way I approach my life and what I do in it to make sure that I remain in the blue or higher regions. And I shudder to think what would have happened had I not measured myself.
Yeah, I think we're talking obviously a lot about the body side of things, but the mind and the spirit come in a whole lot also with this. So obviously, I've learned a lot just by listening to you. I listened to your podcast yesterday with Joanne Callaghan, which was amazing, and now I'm just sitting here absorbing this today. But obviously, you're talking wellness prevention and youthful aging, and putting the three together. After you come up with these readings, that's basically what you're coaching people in doing, correct?
That is correct. And I love what you say, because really awareness gives us choice. And that's the way I look at this particular device. It gives us a choice. And it creates awareness about where we are. I don't expect people to change. I don't expect everyone to change, but everyone that I have ever measured has an emotional response. It may be good or it may be bad. But for the balance of my time here, I would very much like to have everyone on the planet know their score, and then take the appropriate steps under the guidance of a person that can give them options.
Yeah. So, I mean, you'd like everybody to get their score. How do people get their score? I know a lot of doctors don't have this technology. How can people get their score?
So the device, the commercial rights to the device is owned by Pharmanex, which is a subsidiary of New Skin Enterprises. So on their site, they can go put in their zip code, at least if they're in the continental US or even in Canada, their zip code, and they can find a scanner operator that's close to them to see, to schedule a scan. They can always come and connect with me and have me find the person that is doing this. Clearly, there are not as many scanners around that I would love to have around. I think there's a huge opportunity for people in the wellness space to adopt this technology into their own practice and provide that service to their clients. You mentioned doctors. So there's a healthcare professional network of doctors and ophthalmologists and chiropractors that actually do have this wellness component and have scanners in their practice, but not as many as there should. And that really, to me, is an opportunity. But remember, we pay doctors for sick care. We have not traditionally paid them for wellness. So it's really difficult. I think it's a challenge for doctors to, and that is an opportunity for doctors to diversify into wellness. But it is a challenge to get it into their workflow if people coming in just pay them for sick care. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a big problem with how the American healthcare system is set up. Doctors are paid by insurance companies based on procedures, based on, drug prescriptions. And they're not incentivized to keep people healthy. They're incentivized to essentially help treat them once they've gotten sick. And we really do need to turn that on its head and put the focus on staying healthy before things happen to us.
You're singing in my choir, Eric. My big vision and hairy, audacious goal is to empower people of all sick and healthcare skill sets to monetize modalities of prevention with clinically validated tools. Because in that world of nutraceutical industry and wellness, we do have the danger of not knowing what claims we can make. And really, most of us get very skeptical because a lot of claims are made that are not substantiated. And you know from your pharmaceutical days, you don't make a claim that you can't substantiate with the hard data.
Right.
So there's an marginalization. Maybe there's a wooiness about wellness in general, and the skepticism, natural skepticism, not only from the medical industry, but definitely within our population, in our communities, that these magical things don't work. But I always come back to the very simple phrase by Li-Ping Zhao, who was a gut microbiome researcher that he had as a mantra that I read years ago in Science magazine. Eat right, keep fit, live long, die quick. It's not more complicated than that.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking that having these devices like at naturopathic practices, and you mentioned chiropractic. I go to a chiropractor every week and other wellness practitioners. And you're saying that you don't think that a whole lot of them have that right now, but obviously they would be the most likely to have that and spread the word that this is available so that more people out there could get tested for this.
Well, I would even go the other way around. I would say drive the demand, and the places will get the scanners. So just like the pharmaceutical industry has gotten a bad rep for advertising their drugs on television, asking their patients or the people to go check with their doctor to see if this is appropriate. I would love, and I am involved in a health awareness movement that creates awareness about this technology, so that a client can come to the doctor and say, listen, I want me one of these skin carotenoid scores. Can you do this for me? And if enough people ask for it, the doctor will think, well, maybe this is something I should put into my practice. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, unfortunately, healthcare is a business, and business is driven by demand. So if people go in and say, yes, I want this score, ultimately more places will bring in the equipment to do so.
Exactly. And also I would say, Eric, is let's redefine healthcare as sick care, at least healthcare as we know it at the moment. Because if we do that switch, we would leave a whole category open of true healthcare. And then we would not be confusing our people with what they're actually paying for. In France and in Germany, they call it sick insurance. They don't call it health insurance. Here we have this euphemism, which actually has unfortunate consequences, that we are confusing what we're actually buying. You don't call your home insurance car insurance. People know what they're getting when they buy automobile insurance and home insurance, and they don't expect the home insurance to pay for their car accident. But we do expect, when we pay health insurance, to get all kind of health things covered, which is really not the case if it actually is covering sickness.
That's very true. We really do need to redefine our terms and look at what we're doing for what it really is. I mean, yes, you're starting to see now health insurance policies covering things like gym memberships and more wellness, but it's still a small percentage of of policies, as opposed to, well, if you get sick, this is what you need to have.
And I would put the onus as much on the individual as I would put on the insurance companies, to be quite honest.
Oh, sure. People need to take responsibility for their own health. And that that responsibility really spans the gamut of making sure that you're eating better, exercising more often. When you do go to the doctor, question the doctor, get more information. And don't simply say, oh, okay, well, he told me to take this drug. I'm going to take this drug. Understand what the drug is doing, what side effects it has. We need to take responsibility for our own lives and not just farm it out.
I totally agree, Eric. And I would add sleep. Definitely, it should be saying sleep. Sleep is when we sleep is the only time the body has the chance to take out the garbage and rejuvenate and clean up. Because you don't do that kind of work at the cellular level when you're actually up and about, because you're under stress. Sleep, 7 to 8 hours sleep, is absolutely essential.
And that's
it's even more essential
good...
it's even more essential as we get older. I mean, we know that our immune system is compromised if we don't get enough sleep. Everything gets compromised if we don't get enough sleep.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Most people we know for a fact don't get enough sleep. And even more than that, the quality of sleep that most people get is not sufficient for the body to recover. So we
have an opportunity now, because COVID has taught us all about what are the comorbidities that end up giving us a bad outcome. And how are we nourishing our body to set ourselves up with the confrontation? Because I'm sure at some stage we will all get it. It's in the population. There are good pharmaceutical interventions, or there's vaccines that will sort of prepare the body. There are other things that people are talking about that are getting politicized. But at the bottom line is, how healthy are you? Because if you are healthy, you most likely will have a better outcome.
Absolutely. And that's not just true for COVID. That's virtually any illness, any virus. If you start out with a healthy immune system, if you have a healthy body, you can fight off disease much more effectively. So we are just about out of time. So for anybody who wants to get more information, where can they go?
They can email me directly if they wish at hans.parge@yahoo.com.
All right, can you give that again? We had a little problem with audio.
So my first name, Hans, period, PARGE, at yahoo.com. And I would be grateful if they just mentioned this podcast, so I know where it's coming from.
Great. So Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway for this episode?
Mind, body, spirit, awareness equals choice. I mean, we talk about this all the time, taking charge of the person in the mirror. And I'm just so glad that I've learned about this, because I didn't know anything about this until the last couple of days. And as you're saying, we definitely have to get the word out to everybody in the medical industry. I love your analogy, healthcare versus sick care, just telling it like it is. And the bottom line is, we got to get out there and get the scans and take it from there. Obviously, that could help out a whole lot in a lot of different ways for a lot of people. But I love the approach.
Yeah. For me, I think the big takeaway is the fact that, yes, we do have to take responsibility for our own health, and that the deterioration of aging is not inevitable. We can live vital, active lives right up until the time that we don't. And, most people have this image of aging as it's inevitable, the body's going to decline, and I'm not going to have a choice in the matter. But if you exercise, if you eat right, if you get enough good sleep, and if you take control of your health, you can live longer, and it can be an active life, not just, sitting around watching television. So, Hans, thank you so much for being on our show today. We really
Thank you for having me.
it.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch us every week at xvadio.com/podcasts. You can also find us on the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Audible, Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. We'll see you then.